Hi, this is Meg Lightheart from megalightheart.com. This is the second day of us looking at how you can get on top of things. Yesterday I set you a task or invited you to be capturing everything that you can in one place. So all of your open loops are recorded somewhere, either in a notebook or they're recorded somewhere digitally. If you haven't watched that one, go and watch it, because there was a lot of detailed instructions from my hard-won experience about how you can best go about having a tool to capture things. Pretty soon you hit up against the problem that we're looking at, which is capacity. And much as in the depths of meditation it feels like you're a glorious spirit at one with the universe, the truth is that we are some kind of strange monkey that needs to sleep. And even if you didn't sleep, you still only have 24 hours in the day. And if you were to look at your list, your ever-growing list, you realise that you have to choose what's going to be done today, but also that means excluding a massive amount of stuff. And to me, it sometimes feels like there's this ocean of my list, and I have a pair of tweezers and I can take 3 or 4 things to put them in my day. Your first step to look at your capacity is to, if you're someone who has a diary or a calendar, you look at what's already in there. And then you work out, like, what's the kind of time you start doing things, what's the kind of time you end doing things. And yet we can think about work, but also there's the stuff that you want to do for your personal life in there, and wherever that fits. And it would seem like we would count up the hours that aren't already booked for meetings, and if you're listening to this when you're not in lockdown, travel time, that you would just go, okay, that's the number of hours that I've got, and then you would look at your list and put things in. But not all of those hours are the same. There's 4-ish things that I can think of straight away which are going to affect your ability to do things in those hours that are available. One of them is your rhythms. Are you better in the morning? Are you better in the afternoon? Are you better in the evening? When does your brain turn on? When does it not turn on? When do you have big flow moments? When do you have ebb moments? So you know that you don't have the same quality of attention all the day. You are not a robot. Much as capitalism wants us to believe that we are robots, you are not a robot, and so there's a different quality to the hours that are available to you. Each hour is not the same hour. There's also transition time. So doing things back to back to back, and this is something I see a lot with senior people, is that they have back to back to back to back meetings, and that's no good for anyone. And there's all sorts of research around what you leave part of your capacity behind, and it trails behind you as you move from one thing to the next. And you need transition time to move from I'm doing this to I'm doing this. So just adding up the hours isn't that maths doesn't work, because there's also the thing of what you're doing as you're moving, literally moving, but also cognitively moving from one thing to the next. There's also how many surprises there are in your day. So if you're planning for Thursday or Friday, how much do you need to hold space for surprises that you couldn't have planned in? And if that means that you get a certain number of surprise phone calls, or you get things that land on your lap on the morning of or during the night via emails, if you are working from home and you know that you've got kids to look after, or there's stuff that just happens where you can't control it, you need to be aware that 2 or 3 of your hours are going to be taken up with what I kindly call surprises, but there are things that you couldn't necessarily predict on the day, and we are doing ourselves a disservice by ignoring those, even though we don't know what they're going to be, but by ignoring the fact that those are going to exist. And then the fourth thing is about how much task capacity you have available. And we only have a certain amount of concentration. In the literature they call it willpower. So willpower is the thing that you use up when you're doing something, when you're resisting doing something else and you're choosing to do something. So that's basically most of the time when you're not eating muffins in front of Love is Blind. And so anytime you're choosing to do something and part of you would prefer to be doing something else, or you're being undistracted, that's spending some of your willpower. And your willpower can only be refreshed by eating. So if your blood sugar drops, then eating can top up your willpower, or by sleep. There's also something around, like there's this extra conversation around capacity of if you have a disability or a condition that limits the amount of energy you have in the day, then you'll know yourself that needs looking after, and you only have a certain amount of that energy that you can apply to things. And also we have different amounts of energy depending on how we're sleeping. If you're in the middle of a crisis or something big going on, then that also can reduce your ability to do things. If you are interacting with people and you live with marginalised identities, that in itself can reduce your capacity to be focusing. Depending on where you're working, that can change your capacity to do things. If you're having to shut out noise or focus in a place which isn't great for you, then you're spending some of your willpower doing that. So when we look at your diary and what's already in there, and then look at the empty space, all those hours are not the same. And so we need to be, sometimes I feel like the part of us that says yes to things is separate from the part of us that knows about capacity. And also sometimes we're just unconscious of the capacity we have. One thing that you can do is to keep some sort of time log for a couple of weeks, and write down what you're doing every 10 or 15 minutes, and just in as non-judgmental a way as you can, just notice. I notice when I get in from my run, I sit down and I spend 15 minutes on my phone because I need some transition time. When I move from one thing to the next, I have a nap every day, and that means that I need to allow time for that. That when I come away from a meeting or a coaching call, I need at least half an hour to rest and read a book or scroll through my phone, and so understanding that there's that you've got certain capacity that you can apply or not apply, then means that we can then look at that list and be super realistic about what you're actually going to be able to get done. So tomorrow I want to talk to you about how you then choose what go with your tweezers, what goes into your day. But today it's worth just reflecting on, look at your next 2 weeks or so, look at how much space there is, but also just kind of do some quiet thinking about where your best hours are. Is there a period of time at certain times of the day when you're like really spot on and you want to protect those times? Are there periods of time when you're not so sharp? How are you feeling? How's your capacity at the moment? So that you can create a system which really flows with your energy. I hope that's useful, and tomorrow we'll begin to actually get into looking at specifics. If you're thinking you might need some support with this kind of thing, then go and look at megalightheart.com and have a look at the kind of coaching packages I've got. If you have steady income and you would like to support me in producing more of this type of content, then go to patreon.com/megalightheart and become a monthly patron for as little or as much as you want. And wherever you're watching these, click whatever response button you've got, leave a comment or a question. I really love hearing what you're thinking about this. If you're on YouTube, click subscribe so you hear about these videos again whenever they come up. And I'll see you tomorrow in the next one where we begin to talk about reflection and review of your list, so you're able to choose what to do and when to do it. I'm Meg Lightheart from megalightheart.com, and I'll see you in the next video.